surely hit the apple of mine eye. I believe it thou wert right for me, but felt so lonely in thy company. But that was love, and 'tis an ache I still remember. One becomes enamored with a certain kind of sadness. This resignation to the end, ever the end. When we found we could not make amends, thou declared we would e'er be friends. But I concede that I was fain to be parted. Was there cause to cast me off? Act as though it never happened and that we were nothing. In sooth, I do not need thy love, but thou makest me a stranger, and that feels so rough. Hast thou need to stoop so low to send a wagon for thy minstrel and refuse my letters? I need no longer write them though. Now thou art somebody whom I used to know. Now thou art somebody whom I used to know. Now thou art somebody whom I used to know.
I lament the many times that thou impugned my honor, but maintained it was ever something I had done. No more shall I live that way, uncertain what thy words bewray. Thou said that if I were to go, I would not find thee pining for somebody whom thou used to know.
Was there cause to cast me off? Act as though it never happened and that we were nothing. In sooth, I do not need thy love, but thou makest me a stranger, and that feels so rough. Hast thou need to stoop so low to send a wagon for thy minstrel and refuse my letters? I need no longer write them though. Now thou art somebody whom I used to know. Somebody I used to know. Somebody. Now thou art somebody whom I used to know. Somebody I used to know. Somebody. Now thou art somebody whom I used to know.
Hello, chat room. How are you today? I hope you're doing very well.
You do?
Yeah.
Likely story.
Surprise, new series, everybody.
Yeah, I realized today that we just didn't talk about this at all. So that's great.
I mean, if you want, we can just talk about it for tonight and start it next week so that we can hype it a little.
100% no.
Okay.
I've done way too much work to fucking not do this. We already put it off last week. It's just funny. I realized that today. I was like, I guess we didn't actually tell anyone that we were starting this. So that's a thing. But yeah, this is happening. We're just gonna do some one-on-one D&D and see what happens. I need to turn my fan on higher because it's fucking hot as fuck in here.
It's hot as fuck in here too.
Can you hear that? Is that loud?
I can't hear it at all.
Excellent. So I got that bitch on high now.
Talking about
Okay.
eating Reese's Pieces. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Stuck to me. But yeah, I guess that's really all there is to say. We're doing a new D&D show. It's this. It's gonna be, I don't know, cool maybe. We've only ever done one-on-one D&D on the channel once before, and it was pretty fun. It's a whole different subgenre of the game. It's a very different way to play the game. Not that it's impossible, but like it's just different, you know. You don't got a whole party to rely on. So we'll see what happens, I guess. We're going back to Theros, which is very exciting.
Thank you.
Holy fuck,
Is
16
the
months,
background
Doxy
not
Hype,
working
Doxy
on this
Hype,
scene?
thank you for being so fucking awesome.
Whatever. It's fine. Okay. Well, I guess before we get started, thank you very much for the sub, BDD. You look confused. What's up?
Our star thing didn't loop.
Yeah, that's what I just said. I was like, is the background not working? Was it just not set to auto loop? Classic, dude. Okay. Just getting my shit organized here. Crunch, crunch. All right. All right. No, I think the stream it's working again now. You may have broken it for a second, but that's okay.
Good one,
You know.
pee pants.
All right. Are you ready to get? Yeah, just fucking jam a handful of M&Ms in your mouth. Are you ready to get started?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Okay. Give me one goddamn second here. And then we'll get started. How's everyone doing in chat tonight? It's good to see you.
Jerodimus already said, I don't see how that's any of your damn business, but I'm good. How are y'all?
Oh, it's my
One of
business.
favorite answers I've ever gotten to that. I don't see
Oh,
how that's any of your damn business, but I'm good.
Oh, it's our business to know how chat's doing at any given time. Okay. Are you hype or what?
Yeah, I'm very excited.
Do you need to do some jumping jacks before we get started?
Uh-uh.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm eating Reese's Pieces instead. I'm making a healthier decision.
I see and hear that. Okay. I'm just gonna wait till you're done crunching and then I'll get started.
Go ahead.
Am I allowed? Okay. Well, thank you all so much for joining us today as we start a brand new adventure. This is a setting that some of you might be familiar with, others not so much. I guess it depends on if you watch a lot of the campaigns on this channel regularly or not. In part, for sure. But yeah, we are going back to one of my favorite worlds, if not my favorite world, which is the world of Theros. Theros is a setting that is largely inspired by Greek mythology. So there's going to be cool Greek monsters. There's going to be lots of Greek mythos. There's going to be lots of melodrama. It's a great time. So I'm excited to see all of you. I'm excited to have all of you here, and I'm excited to get started.
There's gonna be gods and space magic.
Maybe. Yeah. So I guess without further ado, thank you for joining us, everybody. You know me. I am Josiah, also Dungeon Dad, also your DM. To joining me today, I guess normally I introduce everybody. There's only one other person to introduce who I don't think really needs an introduction, considering, like, you know, this is where we're at. So, hi, babe.
My name is Charlotte. I'm being held against my will.
Well, I'm glad that this one went as smooth as it possibly could have. I'm just
I'm
going to get
Zero
started.
Doxy. I am Josiah's girlfriend. We are...
It's very presumptuous of you.
We are a motley couple. And a couple of D&D players.
Yep. Well, now that we've nailed the intro, let's just get started. Okay. So, as long as you're ready, and as long as you're ready, chat, away we go.
I'm ready.
The world of Theros is, to sum it up very plainly, a world of gods and monsters. It's a place where, given enough time and purpose, thought and dreams even can become indistinguishable from the material. Our tale begins, as every Therosi tale does, in the vast realm of the gods known as the Nyx. The Nyx is an inky, dark realm filled with countless motes of starlight. And within this infinite space-like setting, we see a singular platform, ancient stone floating in the otherwise vast space. Now, it is on said platform there are 6 pillars, remnant of an impossibly old and decrepit structure, still standing after ageless amounts of time. The only sound that can be heard is a rhythmic and wooden thrumming. The closer we get to this singular stone plateau, the louder that sound gets. At the center of these stone pillars on this platform, we see a truly alien and celestial being. A woman whose skin is as dark as the void which surrounds her. Her skin dotted with celestial lights, much like the Nyx itself. She has no discernible features. However, she does wear a very elegant white gown, which is trimmed in fine gold, inlaid with integral and very delicate finery. She seems to be completely absorbed in her task, that task, of course, being the operation of a loom. This being works tirelessly, operating the loom of fate with perfect precision, only attainable by something akin to a Therosi god. The tapestry which she weaves is vast in size and detail. It depicts literally every event that has transpired in Theros, from the binding of the Titans by the goddess Clothis, all the way up until more recent events, such as the crowning of the most recent emperor some 6 months past. As she weaves, there's but a moment of hesitation. What feels like a wry smile crosses her otherwise featureless face. We see a single strand of the loom has come loose and begun to weave itself into a new pattern. In the smallest corner of the tapestry, most near the newest edge, beginnings of a saga have started to form. In ancient Therosi script, we see the saga of Elindra. Rapidly, the threads weave themselves anew, and as we zoom in closer to the tapestry, we find ourselves back in the material world. In a much more relatable place. Not in space on a giant stone platform. We find ourselves in the fighting pits of Akros. Now, while many regale the exploits of the Grand Colosseum and bouts of heroes in the Eroan Games, there is no such honor to be found in a place like this. The pits of Akros are ruled by strength and force. Warriors fight for gold and die honorless if they don't stack up. It's truly a place where the desperate cling to whatever scraps they can find. To fight in the pits is to be relegated as a piece of entertainment for jeering crowds only thirsty for the next spray of blood on the sands. In the center of the ring, right now, are two figures, both battered and bloodied. One, an enormous fighter who calls himself the Cyclops, likely on account of the fact that he has only one eye. He's also not really known for his creativity. And across from him, we see his opponent, who is none other than Elindra. So, Elindra, please describe yourself. Tell chat what you look like.
Elindra looks kind of, she's olive complected. She has dark curly hair. It's very long, but you wouldn't be able to tell that by looking at her right now, because every warrior knows that you pull your hair back when you're in the pits or in the arena.
Just good fighting advice in general.
She has it coiffed behind her perfectly in a tight bun that is also underneath of a little bit of a hard hat situation that she has going on. Not like a construction hard hat, but like a Roman hard hat. And she is snarling at the Cyclops. So you wouldn't be able to tell that maybe she's a little bit underweight. And maybe her muscles are a little bit too defined. And maybe you can see just a little bit of bone poking out in her shoulders and her hips. Because right now she looks fearless and fearsome. Because she knows that either she wins this fight or she dies.
Big true. And for what it's worth, not every single fight here ends in death, but a lot of the time they do. It's very rare that mercy is shown.
And the Cyclops, once again, not very creative.
No, not indeed. And it's maybe as you have this thought and realization, I mean, you guys have been fighting for a while, and both of these fighters are looking kind of tired, and you're hearing like the crowds jeering and the next set of gladiators getting ready to come in for a fight. And I don't know, maybe because you haven't eaten in several days, there's just a brief moment where Elindra slips and you just get fucking clocked, like right in the face, big style. Not a lethal blow, but a big enough and hard enough blow that Elindra goes down hardcore. And you get knocked unconscious by this final blow. And I mean, it feels kind of dirty. You feel like maybe you got something just went down. You weren't expecting to get hit there, so maybe there were some underhanded tactics at play. But this is the kind of place where that thing doesn't really matter.
Such is life in the pits.
It's almost a grace that you get knocked unconscious because, for whatever reason, the Cyclops, maybe on account of his lack of depth perception, Elindra doesn't see this, but he seems to think that he's killed you, and everyone cheers. Whatever. He goes up and collects his purse, which is a whopping 40 copper pieces. And you come to as you're basically being dragged out, and like you're getting ready to chuck you on like a pile of corpses. Just these two guys who work there, I guess they're just pit employees. I don't know.
I spit blood onto the ground in hopes that they see it as I try to find my voice.
Yeah, you do that, and one of the guys who's got his hands like around your wrist is like, "Oh, I think this one's still alive." And the other guy who's got his hands around your ankles like, "Whatever." They just start swaying you as if they're gonna chuck you down this little hill. It's not really a precarious fall, but like, I don't know, you probably don't want to end up getting chucked in a pile of corpses. It's nucky.
Put me down.
When you say that, the one who's got his hands around your wrist goes, "See, I told you," and then he lets go and you just drop to the ground like a foot. There goes like, whatever.
I push myself onto my hands and knees and then get up and dust off my knees, wipe the blood off my mouth. And I look to the one that said, "I think this one's not dead." And I say, "Thank you."
Yeah.
And I make a rude gesture behind me to the one that was like, whatever.
Yeah.
And then I walk back into the pits.
Sure. You go back in, and going back into this main area, like there's another fight already happening. You can kind of see over in the corner, the Cyclops is standing there, and he's like counting the copper pieces, which he has just won. And no one really seems to pay you much mind.
As I pass the Cyclops to get to the registrar, I pat him on the shoulder and I say, "Well fought."
He just looks over at you and is just like, "Ugh, I wish I could say the same," but and then he like clinks his little bag of copper pieces.
I would smile at that and I would say, "Me too." And my stomach rumbles and I head back over to try to sign up for another fight tonight.
Yeah, for sure. So you walk up to, and like the guy who runs this place is an individual by the name of McAllis, and he's exactly the stereotypical type of person you'd expect to see running a place like this. Like he's super scrawny and really gangly. He's got like all these little coin pouches kind of strapped to him and stuff. Clearly someone who doesn't fight himself, but is more than happy to profit off of
the pores.
The pores in the fight. I mean, he himself isn't necessarily not a poor, but he's a king poor.
He's the king of the trailer park, yeah.
Yeah, like, you know, he's got maybe a cumulative like 20 gold pieces on him at any time, which is like fuck you money in the underbelly of a big city like this. So you approach him, and he's just kind of busy like counting up little Scrooge-esque stacks of coins. What are you saying to this guy?
I fish into my pockets, and I pull out my last 10 coppers, and I take one in one hand and knock it against the little counter and say, "I need to get into one more tonight."
Yeah, he looks over at you and he's just like, "You ain't fighting anymore tonight. Look at yourself. Nobody wants to see that. Not even here."
I look worse than I fight.
You can roll a persuasion check if you want.
I would love to.
I believe you.
Okay, here it comes.
You. I can't wait. I'm ready. Hell yeah.
Oh shit.
That never happens to you.
It doesn't.
That's unprecedented. Yeah, so you say that and he just looks at you, and like the thought that goes through his head is like, whatever. Worst case scenario, no one pays any mind to this match and I get 10 copper pieces after you're brutally murdered. So sure. He looks over and says, "Fine, it's your life. I mean, whatever."
What's available? What's it cost?
He like thumbs through his book. He's like, "Well, got a beast fighting bout. We've also got a pancration melee, which is basically just like a free for all. They just take like a bunch of dudes and chuck them in the arena and just last one alive wins type situation. And it's like that's all I got for you."
And what do they cost to enter?
I mean, pancration's free to enter because I mean your odds are like crazy low. The beast fight I think is 5 copper pieces. Yeah.
I try to wave over the Cyclops.
Yeah, sure. You wave over him, he'll come over. He's like, "What?
Rematch?
Rematch?"
Well, the way I see it, you didn't kill me. I didn't win. Neither of those things are what the people want. Rematch?
Just the way I see it. I have 40 copper pieces and I'm about to go get fucked up.
But what if you had 80?
You can make a persuasion check. Nine's not very good. He just looks at you and says, "I respect your hustle, but I have wine to drink." And then he'll just start kind of jetting off.
Before he goes away, I will nod understandingly at him and I will say, "Another night."
If you last that long, sure.
And then I throw down the 5 copper.
Yeah, definitely. So 1 second. Give me a second. Because we're just gonna do this as like a straight up regular combat.
I figured.
So let's see how this goes.
You said his name is McCallus?
McCallus, yeah, is the guy who is kind of running the show down here.
Okay. McCallus the purse?
The purse for winning here is 20 coppers.
Then I'll do both.
Okay. Weeks of desperation, but hey, it's your life, whatever. And excuse me. Oh boy, that's not good. Roll 20 is doing the big die. Please. This is awful what's happening right now.
I'm so sorry.
I didn't think we were gonna have to do a fight here, so I did not have the battle map in. The one that I have, it's like fucking up roll 20 somehow. This is awesome. Cool. We're gonna have to take 5 minutes.
Okay,
while
chat
I fix
room.
this.
Hang tight.
This is a nightmare. BRB. Yep. This is awesome. There we go. Mm-hmm. This is so sick. Nope. Sure isn't. All right, we're set up. Roll 20 is a fucking nightmare. I hate this program. Fun fact, did you know that Wizards of the Coast might be working on a virtual tabletop? Yeah, if they do, like fucking burn this shit to the ground. Oh my god. Anyway. Like a shirt that looks cooler or a shirt that yeah. Yeah, I gotcha. Let me know when we're live again. Oh, sick. Awesome. Okay. Well. Okay. You do that. Things happen. Great. Awesome. I'm gonna move us to a battle map. This is a really fucking big map, so you're gonna have to fucking zoom in a little bit here. Gotcha. It's a trash program. But it's free, so whatever. If I can get the thing up. I mean, honestly, there's no point. Like, for real. I guess we can roll to see if you go first. But I'm not gonna bother with the tracker because it's you and one creature. You're trying to beat an 8. You did it. I'm proud of you. Okay. Well, give me a second here. Oh, there we go. All right. So you go back into the arena. And you know, the portcullis goes up. You're back in the sands. I mean, a little bit of time has passed, but we're not going to worry so much about that, given that it's all just other people fighting and shit going on. But a couple rounds go by. They were able to get you back in for another bout with this fucking Displacer Beast. And that's the situation. You are back in the sands, squaring off against a Displacer Beast. If you don't, for those of you who don't know what a Displacer Beast is, it is kind of like a panther, but they have 6 legs, and they have 2 like really long prehensile tentacles that kind of go out of their shoulder blades and stretch off of their back. They're kind of scary looking. But yeah, we rolled initiative. You have the initiative, so what would you like to do? You're gonna try to calm it? Sure. Okay. You run up to it with a fucking nat 20 again. You start like stroking its fur, and this thing is ravenous, but somehow you are able to like calm it down. And as you do this, everyone just starts booing and throwing shit at you. On its turn, it's not going to attack you. It's just hanging out. Okay. Okay. That's going to present a little bit more of a problem. I guess you're over here now. Stoked that I'd Got this battle map plugged in here for the fight that's now over. Okay. So you try to ride this guy out of the arena. There's no one, like, that's the thing, is this place doesn't really have like guards, and no one really cares to get involved. So yeah, I guess I'm moving us off of the combat map now because you're not fucking in here anymore. I mean, it's not tame, it's letting you ride it for a sec. But you jump on this thing and you're able to like basically ride it up out of the arena. You come out and find yourself on the city streets of Akros. You're in the lower part of the city, which Akros geographically is located like in the middle of a pretty big mountain range. So the city itself is pretty dusty in a lot of ways, just because you're surrounded by stone and rock, and a lot of the city is built as like a fortress. So yeah, sure. But yeah, you're on this in the middle of this a busy street at dusk on the back of a displacer beast. Everyone around you is freaking out. So what would you like to do?
I'm gonna let the animal go.
Sure.
But first I'm gonna ride it to the edge of town and make sure that it leaves into the wilderness and doesn't come back into town.
Sure. You ride off to the edge of town and remove the makeshift, I guess it's literally you pulled a piece of rope out of its mouth that you were using to guide it. And you let it go. The displacer beast just kind of looks at you for a moment, kind of confused, as it was expecting to fight to the death, and then just scampers off into the wilderness.
And now I'll go back to the pits to join in the last fight that I signed up for.
Oh, when you get there, there's a bunch of people waiting, like looking around. You see Michaelis and a bunch of the other like thugs just standing outside. There's at least a dozen of them, and they see you and they all draw their weapons.
I draw mine.
Which weapon?
My bastard sword.
You don't have it. When you sign up for fights, sometimes they give you weapons. A lot of the times it's just with your fist.
Okay, then I'll come out with my arms up. And I'll say, damnedest thing, it hypnotized me.
Roll a deception check.
Look at me, dude.
Yeah, you say that and they all just look at you. And there's kind of like an awkward silence that hangs in the air. And like you see the Cyclops who is with them is like, can they do that? And then Michaelis is just like, well, go kill her. And then they all just start coming at you. And now it is time for initiative.
Wait. Michaelis, wait. Half of my purse if I win. Just let me come back in. I couldn't kill it.
She just looks to you and says, half of the purse that I already have? You're going to pay me back my own money?
Yes. I will only take half the purse if I win. You will keep the other half.
Roll persuasion with disadvantage.
Okay.
Yeah, he just looks at you and goes, not worth.
Then I guess I run.
I was going to say, you have a choice. You can fight or you can run here because you have a gap between you and these guys. Sure. So.
Can you hear me now, YouTube? Sorry. Basically what happened was I was put in an arena with an animal, and I didn't want to kill it, so I used an animal handling check to write it out. And then that's
Were you muted?
Yeah, I was muted until then. Until I said out loud I was muted.
I didn't hear that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Professional. Very cool. Okay. Well, yeah. You start running from these guys. This is just going to be a straight up skill check, or skill challenge rather.
Okay.
So you start booking it from this gang of rough and tumble pit fighters. So what I need from you, you know how a skill challenge works, right?
Yep, I have to choose skills to roll.
I'll explain it for the benefit of chat, because this is not really a 5th edition rule. This is something that we steal from 4th edition because it's fun. Basically, you have to make skill checks, and you're trying to get 3 successes before you get to 2 failures, or 3 failures in this case. So it's a 50-50 shot. And based on what skill you use, I will set the DC depending on how well you describe what skill you want to use and how. So, what skill would you like to try and use first? The only rule is you can't use the same skill twice in a row.
Sure thing. The first thing I'm going to do is run to where they dispose of the corpses and use acrobatics to tumble down the hill in a fashion that is designed to confuse the eye, right? Like, I'm going to try to tumble out of sight.
Yeah, for sure. You're just kicking up a bunch of dust and rolling down this hill and trying to
into a bunch of dead
not
guys.
be seen. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, we'll say that's like a DC 13 acrobatics check. So go ahead and make your check. Easily passed. You run down. They still chase you, but they lose sight of you for a second.
Okay.
So you bought yourself a little bit of headway.
I'm going to use stealth to go in a different direction than it looked like I was leading them.
For sure. We'll say that's also DC 13 because that's perfectly reasonable. Hell yeah. You managed to get a pretty good amount of headway now. They're still looking for you, but they don't see you right away. For sure. Like, you're out of sight 100%.
And then I think I would like to use survival to find the easiest way home from here without being seen by the streets.
For sure. And because of your we'll also say that that's going to be like DC 13, but because of your background feature, you have the urchin background, which gives you that thing where you like know the city really well and stuff. I will give you advantage on that roll.
Hell yeah.
So roll your survival, but do so with advantage. Perfect. So yeah, you well, you may have gotten the shit beat out of you tonight. You are still very agile and very quick. And I mean, this group of idiots, like just big bulked out dudes, they lose you pretty quick in the corpse pile / the back streets of Akros. So you just start booking it, basically doing some real Mirror's Edge style hardcore parkour, going around the back streets of Akros, and eventually you do come to a back alley and you see something that you wouldn't expect to see in this part of the city, because something that is worth explaining, Akros is basically 2 parts. There is the Great Polis of Akros, which is part of where you're in right now, like the greater city-state as a whole. And then there's the Colophon. The Colophon is the massive fortress that sits at the center and atop the mountain. It's like built into the mountain, kind of, and half of it ends on like a sheer cliff. And that is a massive fortress which has huge white walls around it. And that is the like upper city. That's where like the aristocrats live, basically.
Okay.
And obviously Akros is very militaristic. I've said this before, that the parallel we draw here with real history is it's like Sparta, kind of. right? Like it's hyper militaristic. You always see soldiers going around with like their big, beautiful bronze chest plates and gauntlets and stuff with like the massive flowing red capes and everything. So you see soldiers and stuff around here, but something you see, you run down to the end of this alleyway in like a silhouette at the end of the alleyway. You see an Acroan soldier, but not just any Acroan soldier. You see an Acroan soldier who is of the Lukos class, which is basically like the most elite of the soldier and military class that exists within Acros. And not only that, he appears to be a commanding officer of some kind. You recognize because he's got like, all of them have that head mohawk thing.
Mm-hmm.
His goes like way down half to his back. He's got this like brilliant red cape on, and he's huge. Dude stands like 6.5 feet tall, looks super imposing, and you're pretty far away. But the sight of this, like a commanding officer of the Lukos at the end of this random alleyway, like he's on a main street walking by and stops and notices you and just like makes eye contact with you for a second, and it stops you in your tracks for like a full second. And he just looks at you, and it's kind of dark out. It's hard to make out a lot of his features, but there's a moment like you make eye contact and then he just keeps walking. You don't see any other soldiers or anything around. It immediately strikes you as weird that this guy would be in this part of the city.
I would like to try to stealthily follow him.
For sure. You dip out the other end of the alley. You run out, being careful. Give me a stealth and a perception check. Cool. You are maybe thrown off a little bit by what just happened, but you're still pretty quiet. You know, most people probably wouldn't notice you back here. And perception, a 13 is good. You're not really looking for anything hard to find. You're looking for a giant dude in a brilliant suit of armor with a red flowing cape. You get around the corner and you look. You don't see anybody.
I would like to... look around for signs that like footprints in the dust, or like a door ajar or something that would suggest that he had been through.
Roll investigation.
Investigation and not survival?
Well, if you're trying to track him, you can roll survival.
I am trying to track him. Yeah. Fuck.
The dice giveth, the dice taketh away. You don't find anything. I feel like you already knew that. But you look around, and it's uncanny how much you don't find. You're like, wow, this is crazy. I'm usually better at this kind of thing. You don't find anything.
Guess I'll go home to my starving family.
Sure. You go home to your starving family.
I might stop by the market and see if there's anything I can buy with 5 copper to feed them.
Yeah, for sure. You go home, or you go on your way home, and you pass through the market district. And you know, it's late in the day, like it's dusk, but there are still people out and about. A lot of the shops are starting to like close up for the day and that kind of thing. But this is the best time for you to get food, because usually you can cut a little bit of a deal.
Yeah.
Be like you're gonna have to throw out some of this stuff. It's gonna be stale tomorrow, but give me a little bit of a break here. So ultimately that is kind of working in your favor. But yeah, you start heading down to the market area. While you're in this area, you see something that is unusual. You see all of the different vendors and stuff. I imagine there's one, like the guy who sells bread, that you probably like kind of know. You've probably stolen from him before in the past. he's out there, and you're like haggling with him, basically. Like, I don't know, he's getting ready to close up for the night, I imagine. Like, what
I'm
do you
just
go?
like, I have 5 copper for as many hard loaves as you want to give me.
Yeah, for sure. Roll a persuasion check. Seems perfectly fine. You do that, and he looks to you. He's a guy by the name of Savis. He looks to you and is just like, what's your character's name again? Alindra. It's gonna take me like
Alendra,
a session.
Actually.
Alendra.
Yeah, the
sure.
Y is like the Y in Gwen.
Very cool. He looks to you and looks into this like bread basket that he has that he's just starting to put things away. And he just how many coppers are you offering him?
5.
He says, Alindra, I was expecting to see you around this time of day. Seems things in the arena may not have gone your way today, huh? Only 5 copper pieces.
It was an ordeal. I don't think I can go back for a while.
He nods and says, well, and make this last. And he hands you a little pile of 6 loaves of bread that are all like mostly pretty hard. There's like a little bit of mold on one of them, but I mean, you can just cut that off. It's fine.
Savis, one day I will make a marble statue of you, I swear.
He kind of like pats his like big beer belly. He's like, well, be a little bit kind to me in the depiction. Hey, remember my kindness, and maybe you use a little bit less marble than might be required.
And I kind of bat my eyelashes at him, and I say, I'll be as kind to you as you are to my eyes. And I'll brush a little kiss on his cheek, and I'll say, if you throw in butter, I'll help you do your errands in the morning. Just enough butter for me and my mom for one night.
He looks to you, and he is like a businessman, but he's kind of a nice guy. You've got a little bit of a relationship with him for sure. And he's like, okay, but remember, the crack of dawn means the crack of dawn.
Fine, I'll go home now.
He says, okay. And he rummages through his goods and gives you like a little leaf, like a grape leaf that's got like some butter inside of it, a small amount, which will make this hard bread a little more palatable for sure.
Another kiss on the cheek, and I run and I say, crack of dawn.
As you guys are having this conversation, I guess you're on your way out, but
yeah,
like
I
something
turn to
you
leave, at least.
yeah, for sure. You definitely like leave, and on your way out, something you notice, which probably doesn't seem that important to you, but you do notice it. They're kind of like clearing space in the middle of the like market square. Like you just see a few of the people who work here like moving their stalls and that kind of thing. But
okay, I'm gonna climb a building and eat a piece of bread with a little bit of butter. And I'm going to try to do all of this in a way that people cannot see me.
Sure. You can roll stealth. If you would be so kind.
Oh, no.
Hell yeah. 8's not great, but to be fair, there's also not a lot of people around.
Okay.
There's probably a couple people who are doing this that see you climb up there and they're just like, whatever. Like, you're not doing anything illegal. So you have your little Assassin's Creed moment.
Yeah, I'm just gonna sit up on a rooftop or
Yeah.
a veranda or some shit.
At some point, like, you see all the dudes from the pit like run by. They're like, hey, they go over to like the bread merchant. He's like, oh, have you seen it? And like they describe you. He's like, I don't know, man, I just sell bread, like whatever. And they all go about their business. But yeah,
I whisper to
you're
myself, marble with gold flake.
damn. Um, but yeah, you eat your piece of semi-hard bread and make your way back home.
No, so nothing happens.
They do clear this area, but nothing happens tonight.
Okay.
It looks like they're likely clearing the area for something that's going to happen tomorrow or the next
Okay.
day. But yeah, you make your way home, and you are greeted by two people. The kindly, if not somewhat hungry looking face of your mother, whose name is Karina, but she would just be mom to you. And your younger brother, who, I mean, I don't know, how old is Elendra? Probably like 17, 18.
I was going to say 18 or 19, so yeah.
Yeah, so your younger brother is probably like 14, maybe. He's a kid brother for sure. Old enough to like work around the house, not really old enough to like do much else.
He's like 9.
Sure.
Okay.
But yeah, your younger brother, Theoflactos, who often just goes by Theo, is helping your mom just like prepare a soup, which is mostly just water. It's water with like a potato in it, basically. And she sees you come in, and she turns and says, "Oh, Lindra, you're back later than I expected. A little bloodier too."
Stopped to talk to Savis. Ran my mouth off to somebody bigger than me. You know how it is. And I hand her the bread that I had scraped the mold off of on the way over.
Yeah, totally. She looks, she says, "Whoa, he was in a generous mood today, I guess."
I told him I'd help him with errands in the morning.
Well, as long as you actually show up this time, I'm sure that you can find some honest work.
You blow someone off 15 times and it's all you ever hear about.
It's like, yeah, that's exactly how that works, actually.
Yeah, but what about the time I stopped him from getting robbed? What about that time, Mom?
All I'm saying is that I'm glad you're home. And maybe if you got a bit of a respectable job and weren't out there starting fights all the time, you wouldn't have to stop anyone from being robbed, because that is the job of the Stratians and not of young girls who go around getting in fistfights.
I point
Maybe
a
that.
loaf of bread at her and I say, listen, if I wasn't good at fighting, we wouldn't be eating 6 loaves of bread, would we?
She looks at you and looks at the bread, and she says, "Well, I mean, you went to the trouble of scraping the mold off and everything, so I suppose you have a point."
I'll go help him in the morning.
I know. And you turn into an evening of hard bread and potato water.
I surrender the butter to her too, so that she can add it to the soup if she'd prefer.
She'll add a
Since
small
I
amount
already
of it.
had my share.
She'll add a small portion of it to the soup, but we'll reserve a little bit for bread. But yeah, you eat an acceptable meal. You know, it fills your stomach. Nutritional value, but it keeps you alive for another day at least.
I imagine that Theo and I probably share a sleeping area, yeah?
Oh, all of you guys do. This house, I guess I didn't really describe the house you live in. It's a house. It's 4 walls, a door, and a window. And there's like a small cooking area, like a clay fire that has like a pot that can be, or a clay oven that has like a pot which can be heated up and that kind of thing. like a cauldron,
Mhm.
and then there's like 3 bedrolls in a different corner, and like a singular piece of furniture. Like there is an end table in here that is the only real piece of wooden furniture that exists. Because I mean, you guys kind of live a lifestyle where anything that isn't necessary is to be sold because that's food, right?
All right.
Um,
So as we turn in for the night, I lay on my belly and I wait until I can hear my mom's breathing regulate and soften, you know.
mhm.
I'm like, Theo, buddy, are you awake?
He isn't,
Okay,
but then
so
he
I
turns.
grab his nose and hold it shut until he wakes up.
Yeah, you do that. You just hear.
Oh, you're awake. Guess what I saw today?
He just glares at you. Says, "Yeah, I guess I am. I don't know. What did you see today?"
A couple of things. Do you want to hear about the exciting thing or the excitinger thing?
Obviously, I want to hear about both things.
Well, which first?
I don't know. You tell me.
Okay. The first thing I saw was a displacer beast.
A displacer beast? What the heck is that?
I describe it to him. I'm
Yeah,
like,
he's enamored with your story. He's like, whoa!
I'm like, it let me ride it.
He thinks that's the coolest shit ever.
I don't know how it happened. I just got on him and he just went where I wanted him to. It was crazy.
It's like, that's awesome.
But then, guess what else I saw?
Another displacer beast?
If only. But I saw a very high up military man.
Really?
He disappeared around a corner in the marketplace. And that's when I got the bread. And then I saw them moving the stalls out of the way. What do you think is going to be happening in town tomorrow?
I don't know.
Should we go look?
I think we should. That's
so
mysterious.
That means you want to wake up and help me help Savis tomorrow? Excellent. Good night, brother. Good night, Theo. Good night. I love you.
He says, wait. No.
No takebacks. Nerd. And then I like kind of lightly slap him on the forehead and say, go to sleep. We have to work hard tomorrow.
He just glares at you and like slowly lays down. Defeated in his his ownership. Like he's at that age where he's just like, I guess those are the rules. Fuck, I blew it. I
Also,
can't
he
just
wants to
say
hang out
no.
with his older sister, right? Like, obviously.
Yeah, but probably not at the crack of dawn. But I mean, hey, that fucking ship has sailed, so we will we'll move on to the crack of dawn the next day. Cock-a-doodle, don't sleep in because the rooster is a crowing. It is early morning in Akros, and
I turn off my alarm sundial.
I mean, so Akros is one of those cities like it's a big city, so there's going to be all types in a city like this. But the culture is so informed by Erois, who is the Therosi god of victory, that like everyone in this city, or at least the vast majority of people, have the mentality of like a gym bro. So like the crack of dawn comes, most people are awake.
Mhm.
Like this city is like full on active. People are at work. Like people have just finished their morning run kind of thing. You know, everyone's doing their thing. So I imagine you wake up to your younger brother.
Yeah,
Just
Theo's
like
getting his revenge.
he's just like poking you in the face, and he's like, "It's dawn. It's dawn. It's dawn. It's dawn.
Okay,
it's dawn.
okay.
It's dawn." If I had to get up early, you can't sleep in,
Yeah, but you could go tell Savis that I'll be a little bit late.
but I'm not going to.
Then I guess I better get dressed.
Yeah, I guess so.
I put on my clothes and I kiss my sleeping mother's cheek And then I give Theo a little shove, like kiss your mother, you know? And then as soon as we get outside, I'm like, all right, first one there gets to choose who does what.
That's not fair. Your legs are like as long as I am.
I will give you a 10-second head start.
That's not even close to enough.
15.
No. And as he's saying this, he's like
14.
slowly walking backwards away from you.
13.
And then he turns around
12.
and starts running.
I give him 20.
It's very magnanimous of you.
And I also lose the race, but in a way that convinces him that he actually beat me.
That's very cool and sibling-like of you. So yeah, you
I
guys...
make him work for it, though.
Yeah, for sure. You guys get to the market, and like Theo's out of breath. He's like, "Oh, I did it! I won!"
Now you're
Now
the fastest.
You're just like not even breaking a sweat. Like,
Guess you'll have to be the one to fetch the fresh water from now on.
wait, what?
Because you're the fastest now.
I hate you. Anyway, while this is happening, Savas comes over and like you guys start helping him with the morning duties, which is mostly just like setting up his stall, like unloading all the bread from the bakery and that kind of thing. You know, it smells real nice. It's all fresh from the morning.
We're salivating.
Yeah, and like the sun is like still coming up. Like it is pretty early. But I mean, that's when you got to be there if you want to be there when the morning rush comes in. Basically, yeah, he's just got you doing manual labor, you know, like he's talking to like the first few patrons that are kind of coming in like early while you guys are like unloading the cart and, you know, feeding his horses, that kind of thing. Helping load up, because a lot of the people who come here to get food, one of the biggest buyers that he has is the military. So every day there will be like 4 or 5 different carriages that come every few hours to like load up on bread and vegetables and stuff to bring that back to the Agogi where like the military's training, or to barracks, or sometimes in cases of like supply convoys going out to soldiers that are at outposts and stuff like that. So he's got you helping like load up carts as well when people come in. You know, someone comes in and is like, well, we need like 100 loaves of bread. Like, that's what you guys are there for.
Right.
And there's still this like mysterious big empty space in the center of the market square, which like people are definitely eyeing and trying to be like, what is going on with this? But no one really knows.
Yeah, I'll ask Savas about it. I'll say, do you know? And just like indicate.
Yeah, he just kind of shrugs and is like, I mean, anytime that this happens, it's usually because there's some type of edict or announcement to be made. I don't know. It could be anything.
If you set out oil and slices of bread and sell by the slice, you'll make a killing.
Well, depending on what it is, hopefully.
Would you like me to start slicing bread and set out some oil?
Why don't you do that? As you guys are kind of getting things ready, it's around lunchtime, which here is like 10:30 in the morning. But it's around the time of day where like the sun is starting to get pretty high in the sky. Everyone's taking a break, and you know, as part of like what he will pay you during the day, he comes over and cuts up a couple small loaves of bread and like even presents like some cheese, which is like a big time treat, and hands both to you and then another to Theo. And we'll take a seat with you guys. It's like, well, better fill those bellies before we continue the day's work. And he pulls out also like a flask of wine and like drinks from it, and then he'll pass it to you.
I'll definitely take a long sip of it and then hand it to Theo.
Yeah, Theo just like looks at you and then looks at him as if he's like, am I allowed? Like like in the way that like a kid would, who's like, I don't know if this is cool or not. And then he takes a drink and is kind of like, and then takes another little sip of it and then hands it back to you. He's like, yeah, that's good stuff right there.
I take another sip and then I hand it back and I say thank you.
Savas nods to you, looks at Theo, and he's like, keep that up, and we're gonna hair on that chest by the end of the week.
Yeah, sometime he'll maybe even act natural about it when his cool older sister lets him get away with something.
Theo's definitely like a little embarrassed, but also it's like, whatever, I got to do the cool thing. But yeah,
I'll give him a little squeeze.
just a baby squeeze.
Yeah.
Yeah, while this is happening, everyone's attention is immediately drawn by a bit of a commotion as there is a unit of Acroin hoplites starts coming down the main drag, and everyone's kind of looking as if like, okay, well, hopefully this is going to answer our question about what exactly it is that we're waiting for here. And yeah, these guys are all capital soldiers, meaning that they're like the soldiers that you're used to seeing on a day-to-day basis, while are still given like respect and are definitely great warriors in their own right. Like you can just tell by looking at these guys based purely on the fact by how clean all of their armor and equipment is. Mm-hmm. Like they're not down in the dust and dirt on a daily basis like the other soldiers you see around here are. A lot of these guys are pretty sleek looking. And also something else that's noticeable is you see a lot of the soldiers in Akros have different animals emblazoned on their armor, because the military caste, the Stratian caste of Akros, all of which it's a bunch of aristocratic families, all of which allegedly can trace their lineage back to the 7 like warriors that founded Akros in like ancient times. And those families have expanded over times. Like there are people who have earned their way into the military caste via deed and that kind of thing. But still their house once added will also be represented by one of these 7 animals.
Right.
These guys are all emblazoned with the symbol of the ram, which is like the most prominent because the ram is the symbol of the royal family.
Okay.
So that if the cleanliness of their armor wasn't a very telling point, the fact that they're all emblazoned with the symbol of the ram being the symbol of the royal family is a pretty big tell as well. So you see these guys rolling in, and they kind of all move to this area that's been cleared in the center, and they form up like split in half. Half of them go to one side, half to the other, and they don't have their like weapons out or anything. All of them are equipped with spears and round shields, but they just kind of are like standing at attention with like their weapons by their sides. And one of the soldier who's clearly like in command of this group of like 20 or so hoplites kind of walks in the middle and steps aside as well. And they are there with someone who you've never seen before, but who is clearly an aristocrat of some kind. He's not like armored and that kind of thing. He's wearing like long flowing robes in the classic white and red and gold and crocey colors. And he kind of goes into the center of this area that's been cleared and starts speaking. And he announces that, where are my notes at? There we go. He begins to speak and says, everybody, listen, as the royal family wishes to make it known now that we are 4 months out from the Aroan Games, that we will be accepting and judging applicants and entrants for the games themselves. This year, the application process will entail the felling of a great beast or monstrosity. Bring with you the head and trophy of a monster that you have felled yourself in single combat and be judged for entry into the Aroan Games. This also requires a little bit of explanation because I know that you know what this is, but for the benefit of the chat, the Aroan Games is basically the Olympics. It is a big time contest of strength and skill. There's chariot races, there's gladiatorial combat, like every type of test of strength and skill you could expect. Oh yeah, definitely.
Is there curling?
Probably not curling.
Is there tennis?
No.
What about volleyball?
Stop. So, yeah, it's basically the Olympics. The most prized event is the melee, which is like the gladiatorial combat, the single melee, because that is like the real gold medal. Like there are gold medals for like all the different events and sports and stuff, but that's the one that's like, this is what people watch for.
Yeah.
Like that's the final like headline event, because whoever wins that, there are different things that are awarded. Often the prize is a lot of gold, and of course fame as well, and status is a big one because like you're now an Olympic champion. Everyone who places first in any of the Aroan Games immediately, if they are not already part of the Stratian cast, is immediately elevated to such status, meaning that like you're an aristocrat now if you weren't before. Because when I talk about the aristocrats in Akros, there are definitely some that are kind of like, you know, like, I don't know, sniveling aristocrat kind of thing. But for the most part, like the aristocrats hold true to the same principles that they enact on the rest of society. So like houses, it's very rare for someone to elevate their house into that caste. It's not very rare for a caste that like doesn't perform well in the military to be like demoted into like out of the aristocratic kind of situation in the colophon. So
it's
that's
not like the aristocrats that you know and love today, Chad.
Exactly.
It's
now, granted,
honest.
There are definitely some that are like that, but as long as a family as a whole is considered like upstanding and honorable, then they are allowed to continue to enact their business as aristocrats. So that's a big thing for sure. If you're not already part of the Stratian cast, you can be elevated as such. The biggest thing, which isn't really an award given out by Akros, but is often true, is that whoever is crowned victor of the melee often is met by Aroas himself. The god of victory usually comes down to the material to meet that individual and often grants them some type of boon as a champion of Aroas, considering that the whole thing is basically a giant ceremony in his honor. So that's the biggest thing that most people compete for, is a chance to actually like have an interaction and a conversation with Aroas, who will often then send these people on like some type of grand quest or cause or whatever as a champion of his. So it's a big deal. There are contests like this that happen almost every day, but this is like the playoffs. This is the big one. This is the Super Bowl. And they're just announcing that 4 months from now, because we are currently on the first day of Agrippnion, which is the 12th and final month in the calendar. So we're 5 months out from Thrymbion, which is when the Aroan Games are hosted. Fun fact, that month in Akros is called Aroagonion, named after him, but they're the only ones who call it that. Anyway, this is being announced, and like people are kind of looking around, and this is very exciting because even like most people don't participate in the games, but everyone goes to watch them. And this is one of the few times a year where like the floodgates are open, everyone's allowed into the Capitol, like rich, poor, everyone fills this stadium to watch the bread and circuses, basically. So it's a good time. It's fun. There's all festivals. People from all around Theros always travel to witness the Eroan games, especially satyrs. Satyrs love the Eroan games. They come here from almost halfway across the world just to witness it, and will often spend the following like several months just reveling.
And I love partying with satyrs.
Definitely. So this is I mean, it's still several months out, but this is kind of an exciting thing. And that's clearly why. So he's just kind of going on and like explaining all the rules, but that's the gist of what's happening right now.
So like chewing a mouthful of bread, I'm just like, I could get in.
Theo looks to you and goes, "Nuh-uh."
Oh yeah.
Like, you think you could compete with how? What kind of monster are you even gonna slay anyway? And as he says that, you see kind of a couple people who you might actually recognize who are from this part of town, but are known like champions that have competed in the Eroan games in the past. One of them is a gentleman by the name of Adon, who is famous because his father was Heronod the Monster Slayer, or Heronod the Slayer. So he comes from like a lineage of monster slayers. He's kind of like a wiry dude with a thin beard and like thin curly hair. And he is in this like big crowd of people because the marketplace is pretty crowded around this time of day, and obviously people are here listening to this situation. And he raises up one of his swords and just declares that he is going to bring back the head of a Hydra. And there's like kind of like a gasp. Everyone's like, "Oh, like that's so impressive." And then someone pipes up from not too far away, who's another figure who you definitely would recognize just from living around here. Is a woman whose name is Leto. And she's a pretty bulky, strong lady with long black hair. And she just says, "You idiots. You're going to bring back a Hydra's head? That doesn't mean that you've killed it. We'll just grow back 2 more. I personally intend to bring back the head of a manticore. Something that, you know, you actually have to kill to cut off its head." And like some people start kind of chuckling, and Adon's is kind of like, "Oh, whatever, like, fuck you." And then in truly bombastic fashion, there's a gasp as this all happens very fast. A very large, burly, bald-headed, dark-skinned man approaches from the side and like holding in his hand just throws 3 very large heads in front of this this aristocrat and judge. And you recognize this guy immediately. He's a gentleman named Costa, who's actually kind of a big deal like in this part of town. Like he's like a local hero basically.
I would not fight him.
Yeah, and he throws these 3 heads clearly belonging to a chimera, one lion, one unicorn, and one draconic in nature. It says, "Sorry about the mess, Gianni. I couldn't decide which of the 3 I liked the most, so I just brought them all in." And Gianni's like, "How did you even know that?" He's like, "Oh, I have my ways. I figured, hey, worst case scenario, you just rid the world of another terrible monster, and everyone gets to check out some cool heads."
Me and Leo are pressed up against each other and poorly animated like the excited kids in an anime, and hearts are floating out of us really, really fast. And we're just like, "Oh, it's him."
Yeah, he's basically Terry Crews the Gladiator. Like, that is truly what this guy looks like.
Yes.
And he's there with like his entourage who basically like helped him carry back these heads or whatever. He's like, "So what do you say? Does that qualify me?" And he's just like, I guess, like pulls up his gown and like rubs some of the blood off it. And he's just like, "Great. I guess I'll see you at the games," and starts chuckling. Yeah, that's what's going on right now.
I don't announce it, to the group at large. But I do get up to start selling bread to people, and I look over to Theo and I say, I'm gonna do it.
He looks at you and says, you're gonna do what? Gonna go slay a monster and bring its head in?
Yeah?
What are you gonna kill? A kitty cat, maybe? One of the local cats?
I'll have you know that just yesterday I tamed a displacer beast.
You rode it out of an arena.
I rode it out of an arena, Theo.
That is true, and that's cool, but that's not the same as taking the head of a giant monster.
You know those rumors about a Cyclops causing troubles?
Oh yeah, I mean, of course. You know, in the northeastern region, they're all up there. That's like, I don't know. I guess it's not very common that they come down and fight, but I've heard all kinds of stories about that.
Reckon I'm faster than one of them.
What, you think you're gonna cut the head off of a Cyclops? Those things are huge, like 40 feet tall.
It'll try to eat me, and I'll be too fast for it. I'll take its head, and I'll roll it into town, and I'll win the heroine games.
Theo just like blares out loud, "You're gonna kill a Cyclops?" And like when he does that, there's just like a gasp, and everyone goes very quiet. And you see everyone just like look over at you, including Savas, who just like takes a step back and just like pulls his arm and looks at you. And you see everyone, including Adon and Lido and Costa, all look in your general direction. And like there's just a silence hanging in the air.
Warm sliced bread for 1 copper with olive oil over here, folks. Get 'em all taught. My hands like pressed up against Theo's stupid ass little mouth.
Yeah.
Face as sweet as can be.
You see Costa comes over and he like takes a piece of the bread from you and looks down and says, he says to you and Theo, I'm sorry, did you say you were gonna kill a Cyclops?
No, I said fresh bread.
Theo goes, yeah, and that's exactly what she says. She said she thinks she can kill a Cyclops.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna go kill a Cyclops.
Costa just kind of looks down at you and just goes, I like it, and like puts an arm around you that is about as thick as your body and just like puts it around your shoulder and like kind of lifts you up a little bit. And then he points down and he's like, tell these people what your name is. You're gonna kill a Cyclops? That's amazing.
I'm Elendra, and I'm going to kill a Cyclops in the Northeast. Fresh bread, 1 copper.
Everyone just like starts clapping. It's like, woo, like starts cheering. And he's like, wow, next to me, you'd be the second person from this part of town to kill a Cyclops. See, whenever I tell people I'm from this district, they always shake their heads, but I always tell them there's warriors out there. And I would look like a real asshole if you weren't being serious right now. So give me some of that bread and good luck.
We accept tips. We accept them. And I give him a big hunk of bread, and I say, any tips?
He says, oh, yeah, definitely. Here's a tip.
They're strong.
You need to get a lot stronger. He just looks at you and he's like, I'm going to be honest with you. That I picked you up like way easy. I wasn't trying to pick you up. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, but I'm fast.
That's true. You look real fast.
I snake out of his hug and point my hand at him, like my hand up to his neck like it's a sword. I'm like, see how fast I am?
It's like, yeah, that's pretty fast. Good luck. All I can say is good luck. He just takes the bread and starts walking away. And Savis then gets up on like one of the box and he's like, that's right, a local contender over here selling bread, Savis bread. We formally sponsor Alindra.
Best bread in the entire market.
And yeah, just causes even more unwanted attention to be cast upon you.
I'm just hoping to sell a lot of this guy's bread because I love him.
Yeah, you sell a lot of his bread for sure. I'd say you sell out of bread. The day moves on, and yeah, by the end of the day, Savis says, "You wow, I haven't sold that much bread in a long time."
Told you, slices.
Speaking of slices, that was a pretty bold lie you made just to sell bread.
You think
But,
I
I mean,
can't
it
do
works.
it? You think I can't kill a Cyclops?
I don't think most people can kill a Cyclops. Don't take it personally. It's not so much that I don't think you can kill a Cyclops. I just think a Cyclops is very good at killing you.
Savis, you gotta help me. I'm gonna get killed.
Oh, for sure, right?
What do I do?
I would probably just change your name and move to a different town, maybe.
But surely somebody as strong and of form like yours could teach me how to get stronger myself.
He leans back and like puts a hand on his belly. He's like, do you think I got a form like this by taking fights with people?
Yes.
Well, you'd be surprised. Most merchants aren't known for their ability to wage war, shall we say? At least not
you're
physically.
all charm, Savis. Do you know anybody that can help me?
Well, none of the local Agogis will take you in because you are, of course, not
Wealthy.
Wealthy, or not even, you're just not supposed to be a soldier. You know, you're lowborn like me. It's just, not really our whole jam. So that's kind of not an option. I would say find someone to train you, but I don't think that many of the soldiers around here would be likely to do so on account of the fact that, they're all in the army.
Boring.
I mean, many of them are training themselves. I don't know. Good luck. And he just hands you a bag that has he hands you 2 silver pieces.
Ooh.
and 20 coppers. So it's like 40 copper altogether, basically. And
I'm gonna hand him back 10 copper and be like, how much bread and oil can I get for this?
He like pushes it back and he's like, I saved a little something for you guys because you sold pretty much everything today. And he pulls out like a little piece of cloth that's got a couple loaves of bread wrapped up in it and a little bit of oil. And he's just like, this is for helping me out today.
Any time, Savis. I'll see you in the next life.
He's like, well, I mean, I could always use some help early tomorrow morning. I imagine you were just like already walking away. Like,
You know, I'll be back within. We'll talk about dinner tomorrow. And I grab Theo and I do a thing where I tap the low, like the small of my back, and he hops on for a piggyback ride.
Hell yeah.
And I take him home.
Take me home. Country road. Okay, yeah. You Theo hops on your back and you start trekking home. So you make it back home and you've got some bread and stuff. And the second you walk through the front door, Theo just runs and goes, Mom, Alindra told everyone that she was going to kill us.
I grab him.
Make a an acrobatics check.
Okay. You little shit.
You roll a 20. Yeah, you try to grab him, but it's too late. He's already said what he said. And your mom just like drops what she's doing. Just looks, she says, I'm sorry. What? Did you just say, Theo? She says, yeah, it's true. She told everyone in front of the whole marketplace that she was gonna go out and kill a Cyclops into the Aroan Games.
Yeah, well, Theo drank wine today. No, I'm just kidding. She wouldn't do that. She just sits there kind of like blinking. She cannot believe that Theo just ratted her out like this. And I hand my mother the 40 copper and the bread and the oil. And I say, I was just trying to sell some bread, Mom.
Make a deception check.
I feel like, you tell me if this is too much shenanigans. I feel like I'm not trying that hard to actually lie, but I'm trying to be like, we shouldn't discuss this.
Yeah, for sure.
And like, that's what I'm conveying.
Okay.
So if you still want me to roll, I can.
I don't think that you really need to if you're just telling me that you're not trying to lie. Yeah, you say that. And roll an
Good
insight.
money today.
Roll an insight check.
Okay.
Cool. You see a look on your mom's face that you've never seen on her face before. You don't really know what it is. She doesn't seem to be angry with you. She also doesn't seem to be like stoked about the current state of affairs. She just has like a weird energy coming from her right now. She kind of looks at you and she says, well, it seems you were successful, and puts on a bit of a smile and, you know, gets dinner ready and stuff. You guys sit down and eat. And then she sends Theo to bed at a certain time. And once he's gone to sleep, imagine you're just helping her like clean up basically. And as you guys are there cleaning up the clay dishes from Potato Water Part 2, you feel that she just puts one of her small hands on your hand, and she just looks at you and says that she says, I always knew it was a matter of time before something like this happened.
Dad told me that because I'm his daughter and because I'm your daughter, that I'm special and that I'm strong.
She nods. She says, that might be true.
Who is going to look out for you and Theo if I don't do this?
She says, I'm not going to try to stop you, if that's what you think.
Well, then don't make me feel guilty about it either.
She says, I'm not trying to make you feel guilty. But you know that there's no way I'm not going to worry about you. But I also know that there's no way that you're not going to do this. All I ask is that you try to find something smaller.
No way.
She kind of chuckles a little bit. She says, well, I had it taken out of the house because I did not want it around, especially with you and Theo growing up. But I also couldn't bear to sell it or have it thrown away. But I have your father's armor and his blade that you can at least try to learn how to actually fight with.
And my face softens, realizing that my mom isn't trying to stop me from doing this thing. And like an appreciation for her open-mindedness kind of washes over me. And I just like really love my family in this moment. And I fight the urge to cry a little. And I say, if you tell me how I can collect it, I can go start training this evening. I only have a couple of months.
She gives you a hug and just holds you tight, and she says that there's a large flagstone resting over top an old cypress tree just outside the village of Ohm. She says that is where you will find his things.
I change out of my dirty day clothes and put them in like the laundry cauldron, and change into like traveling clothes. And I say, do I know how far it is from here?
It's like a day away almost. It'd be a day and a half.
Then I shall see you in a few days, Mother.
She nods as she gives you a hug again. And she says to you while she's hugging you, she says, I would never try to stop this from happening. It's in your blood after all. All I ask is be careful.
No way. And I hug her tight back. And I just take her face in my hands and I give her a little kiss and I say, Theo is a bigger boy than you think he is.
She laughs to that and says, yeah. He seems quite taken with the idea of helping Savras at the market, so we'll be fine.
Then I will see you in a few days. I love you.
I love you.
And I go over and I plug Theo's nose until he wakes up.
Yeah, the same thing that happens always when you do that happens.
I love you, Turtlet.
Looks at you and says, ugh, why are you waking me up right now?
Because I'm leaving. I'm going to be gone for a couple days. You have to take care of Mom.
Oh.
If I come back and she's grown thinner, you're in big trouble.
He just kind of looks to the side and thinks for a minute, just kind of foggy from waking up again. It's like, when you get back, she'll be fatter than you've ever seen her.
Ah, so you're going to the pits. It's about time.
Something like that.
And then I just push his face into his pillow and say, I love you.
Just fucking kill him.
And
But yeah,
I
okay.
walk away.
Very cool. So you leave. The place that she was describing, the village of Ohm, is exactly that. It is a small village on the outskirts of Akros proper, to the east. It's a place that you knew your mom used to live there once upon a time, but you either were very little or don't have any memory of it. but you go with her instruction, and that is a great spot for us to take a little breaky poo.
Okay.
It's been like 2 hours, so let's take a break.
Everybody hang tight. We will be right
Next,
back.
take 5.
Don't
We'll
go
BRB.
anywhere. Ready?
Oh, I'm ready. Did you unmute?
Hello, chat room. We're back.
Chartoon. How's it going, gang? Okay. Let me know when you're ready to resume and we'll pick
Take
things
it
up.
away, bud.
So, you make your way out the eastern gate of Akros. The cities and whatnot are, of course, packed with people. It's a very busy spot. Something you would notice on your way out is there's probably a few like caravans and like hunting expeditions like gearing up and getting ready, basically, because it's just been announced what the criteria is. So everyone who has interest in trying to get into the Aroan Games is gearing up to start heading out.
There's actually a thing I'd like to do before I leave town.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to go back to the spot where that mystery dude disappeared
Sure.
and investigate and see if I can find anything.
Roll an investigation check.
Oh, fuck. I shouldn't have said the word investigate.
I mean, it's too late to track him now. That's long gone. Yeah, you do not find any real information here
Okay.
about that individual.
All right.
I imagine something that I guess is worth noting when you do investigate around here. Part of that is probably talking to people, like, "Hey, did you fucking see some soldiers coming through here?" No one
In
saw.
particular, that giant guy.
Yeah, no one saw shit.
Okay.
Anyone you talked to. I mean, granted, when that happened, it was kind of late in the day, but like no one saw soldiers coming through here in general. This is like a back street off of a back street.
Sure. Okay. I will make my way.
For sure. So you make your way. You find yourself walking along the path. And sure enough, there's a little like waist-high rock wall that kind of goes up over this slight hill. And I mean, this area, the area surrounding Akros, is very mountainous and very treacherous in a lot of places, but there are these little pockets of greenery. It's basically a lot of peaks and valleys.
Mm-hmm.
The village of Ohm is a farming village. And you come up over the crest of this small hill, this little waist-high stone wall kind of bordering it as you come up. And there are just these fields of like golden wheat, basically, just as far as the eye can see, with mountains set in the background, all kind of surrounding this small little village. And then there's like little dots of buildings and stuff around it, which are like farmhouses and granaries and that kind of thing. The sun is just starting to go down, so it's quite picturesque, really. It's beautiful in a way that only Akros really is. Like, there's nowhere else in the world you get these same like golden hues and reds and oranges naturally appearing in such a way. But yeah, you see a lone cypress tree on the side of the road, maybe about 10 feet out, kind of incorporated into this rolling wheat field. And it's very big and very old. Big and old enough that you're like, yep, this has got to be the place. So imagine you hop over the little wall there, go over to check it out. And around the base of it, there are a dozen or so flagstones. However, there is one pretty large one, which is emblazoned with a symbol of... Sorry, my fucking notes died on me.
No problem.
There we go. Which is emblazoned with the symbol of the horse. Which you know that when your father served in the military, that was the house, or one of the houses that he served me with.
Okay.
So that's your tip off that there's something special about this.
I will get a closer look.
Yeah, I imagine you're trying to like pull up the stone.
Yeah.
That's the logical next step to do here. You grab onto it and you start to like hoist it up, and it's pretty embedded into the earth. It's been here for a long time. But you pull it up pretty easily. I won't use the word effortless, but it comes up a lot easier than you think it will. You're prepared to be like, oh shit, like I'm gonna have to dig out around this and stuff, but
Right.
like you managed to just like hoist it up. And underneath is a box, just a wooden lockbox, just not locked, but you likely have found what you're looking for. I imagine you just kind of push the stone to the side, and inside of this box, you find exactly what was promised you here. There is a pretty fine set of bronze armor. And it's that typical like gauntlets, chest plate, like the kilt thing.
It all looks like man's muscles.
Shin guards. And the helmet as well. And something else that you'd find in here is a weapon. This weapon is very peculiar. A, because there's no shield to go along with it. It is a sword, but typically the swords that the typical weapon outfit for an acro and hoplite is a spear, a shield, and a short sword. There's no spear and there's no shield. There is a sword big enough to be held with two hands, and it's like triple the length of the short swords that you've probably used in the past even. All of it is made of very high quality bronze.
That's dope. First, I wonder why my mother never sold this. And then I'm thankful that she didn't. And then I put it on and try to lift the sword.
Yeah, so a couple things happen here. When you put on this armor, as you're donning it, which of course takes quite a bit of time doing it by yourself, it fits your body very well. It fits you extraordinarily well. Like, you feel like there's a little room to grow for sure. But the proportions are all right. Like the measurements are all right. The sword itself, also, when you go to pick it up, it looks like it should be way heavier than it is. But you're also able to pick up the sword pretty easily. And like you kind of wave it around a little bit, and it feels good. It's definitely a long sword. It's a broad sword, is what it is, which is a kind of unconventional weapon. It's not something you see used a lot. Typically, the only time you see a weapon like this being wielded is usually by Minotaur, because they possess the raw strength to be able to just two-hand a giant sword like effortlessly. But you are able to wield it pretty easily. Yeah.
Looks like I have to go find some trouble.
Speaking of which, make me a perception check.
I want to.
I believe you. Very cool. While all this is happening, you don't really notice this at first because you're kind of engrossed in what you're doing and putting on this armor and stuff. But after you go over, you find this armor, you find this weapon, and this is really when you start to look around. You're like, man, what's happening right now? Like, where am I? This was your destination. You smell first kind of like an acrid, smoky scent, like something's burning, which of course draws your attention to the east opposite the road of where you're standing. And you look out and you see, not super far away, maybe like half a mile away, you can see black smoke rising. Something's on fire.
I will immediately run towards the fire.
Sure. So you start booking it over there to investigate this this fire situation. And immediately as you kind of enter this like small cluster of buildings, there's like a couple houses around here, but you see a wheat field just burning, and it looks like a big chunk of it has burned. Like that shit goes up so fast. You also see a what looks like a windmill, like pretty far off in the distance, and there's like people kind of gathering closer. You can't really make out what's going on over there, but as you approach, an elderly gentleman like runs up to you and like grabs onto your armor. He's just like, "Oh, thank the gods that you're here, young soldier. I don't know what brought you out this way, but it seems that the villains of Mogus have seen fit to attack our village."
Can you get people together to put out the fire?
He says, "I can try." And he just points over in the direction of the windmill. He says, "They're that way."
I will handle the thugs. You handle the fire.
He nods and
I
like hobbles
run.
off. Yeah. And you see him kind of go off towards the area where, you know, like the actual village itself is.
Right.
But yeah. So, 1 second here. You you kind of run up to this area and you see an interesting scene in front of you. There is this large windmill, and there's like a bunch of villagers standing around it, and they look like basically armed militia, right? Like these are kind of the people who live here, but like they've taken up arms. Some of them just have like pitchforks and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them do have like short swords or very simple weapons, but none of them are really wearing like armor per se. And they're gathered around a windmill, and at the top of the windmill, kind of standing on one of these platforms built out, is a figure in who's just like cloaked in dark gray and like black cloth. You can't really make them, but they look quite large. And these villagers seem to be like harrying, like they're trying to get this person out of here, basically. And you just hear them like shouting things along the line. And this is all kind of what you're seeing as you're getting closer to this. You just hear them shouting things along the lines of like, "We have to drive out the servants of Mogus," like, "You won't kill anyone else today," that kind of thing. And up at the top of this windmill, you see this cloak which this individual has, which part of it is on fire. They just like tear it off, and there's a minotaur up there, and he's pretty big. He looks maybe like, I don't know, aged is the wrong word because he's not an old man, but he looks older. Like his fur's got some gray in it. He's got a few scars, that kind of thing. Like clearly this guy's fought in some battles before. And he doesn't seem to have a weapon or anything, but he just looks down and jumps off of this platform and lands in front of this crowd of people with like an impact that you almost feel on the ground. Like you don't really, but you could almost swear that you feel the impact with just like the weight of this like literal ton of flesh and muscle hitting the ground. And he just clenches his fists and just says in common with a very clear Minotaur accent, but says, "You wish to see Mogus? I will show you Mogus." And now we roll initiative.
Yeah, I would stand up and I would yell, "Villain, show me."
I'm bringing you to a map. Can you see?
Excellent, I can. 1 sec. Let me get stream caught up here. very hard to do this with only 2 monitors when I normally have 3.
I believe you.
Yeah, it's kind of tough to manage all the stuff. Why am I so much further back than everybody?
Because you're running up.
Okay.
That's why.
All right. Stream should look good now. And I will roll my initiative.
Okay. You rolled a 10, right? Yeah, okay. Perfect. Okay. So up first is these guys. He jumps down. I need to roll. One, two, three, four, 5, 6. So we've got a 20, 6, a 3, a 5, 17, 13, 2. Okay. So we're just going to make this real simple. These 3 guys on the right are like a little bit frightened, so they're all going to take a step back. These 3 guys are all going to rush in and start attacking. One of them hits. 7 damage. God damn. So yeah, these 3 of these guys kind of step back and like don't really react right away. This other group, a lot of the people who are unarmed just like leave, like they just flee. But there's these 6 guys who actually look like they're kind of out here with weapons. 3 of them run at this guy, and he's like blocks one and like dodges the other. Then the 3rd guy just like stabs him in the side. Now it's the Minotaur's turn. Whoops, that's not what I meant to click at all. He does not have an axe.
It says Minotaur.
It does, but he doesn't have an axe. The Minotaur stat block has an axe. This particular Minotaur does not have an axe. He is bare-fisted.
I love this little map.
It's a cool map, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you see him, like, as he dodges one, deflects the other, gets stabbed by the 3rd guy. The guy who he blocked with, like, one of his arm gauntlets, he manages to, like, turn that around and grabs his arm and just, like, rips that dude to the ground. You would probably know enough to know he's not dead, but his arm is definitely dislocated.
Okay.
But he's disabled. And then he punches the other guy beside him for some damage, but does not take him out. It's your turn.
I'm going to use my entire turn to get in front of him, and on the way, I'm going to say to this one, get him out of here.
Sure. You do that, and all these like militia guys just look over at the Minotaur, basically, and they're just like, "Oh, you're in for it now," because they just see like the armor you're wearing and are expecting you to come in and just fucking delete this dude. Cool. So this guy will do the thing that you said. He's gonna move here, and you can move back that far. Technically, this dude does get an attack of opportunity against the prone guy, but he's not gonna take it. These guys are gonna also run in now. They see you here, and we're getting 1, 2, 3, 4 attacks. It's a hit, a miss, a miss, and a miss. Wow. Oh boy. So that's under 6 damage. So yeah, the one guy, like, again, just very impressive in terms of feat of strength, combat ability. all four of these dudes go at him at the same time. And again, one of them manages to like eke in a hit as he just blocks another one, blocks the other. Like the third guy goes in, thinks he's got an easy shot at his jugular, and like he rears his head down and uses his horns to like twist the spear out of his hands. And then the third guy manages to get in a little bit of a lick. And yeah, then it's back on his turn. And you see him, his body like tenses up. Like you can almost see the veins bursting out of his arms as he's almost growing. And he's just getting angrier. And he says, "Leave me alone." And he's gonna make 3 attacks. That's a miss, but a hit and a hit. Damn. Okay, so that's max damage on this guy. He just rears up one of his legs and fucking kicks this dude like square in the chest, sending him flying back. And he is, again, you hear like ribs break, but
one of his lungs is collapsed.
But he's not dead.
Okay.
He fucked that dude up, but he's not killing these people. He is fucking them up in a big way, though.
Okay.
He also takes out this guy. Like I imagine as he does that, just with one of his massive arms, haymakers to the side, and like part of the action of doing that grabs this dude's entire fucking head and just like smashes him into the wall, knocking him unconscious, then just like drops him. It's your turn.
I'm gonna look to the Minotaur and I'm gonna say, why were you okay to kill before? Why were you okay to start a fire, but now you make efforts not to kill these people?
He just kind of like grunts. You see like this almost like hot air like blow out of his nostrils. He glances up to you like kind of mid doing this, and he says, "Why would I burn my own fields?" He says, "They put my crops to the torch." He says, "Stay out of this, outsider. This concerns you not."
Are these people attacking your fields?
That's all he really says about that.
I look to this one
combat.
then, and I say, what reason have you for burning an honest crop?
In the like middle of combat, this has happened, but this guy kind of like has his weapon raised, like his pitchfork raised at him.
I'm gonna grab his pitchfork and
Sure.
turn him to look at me and ask him that question.
Yeah. He just looks at you and says, "We had raiders from one of Mogus's bands attack us some days ago. It must have been his fault. They could not have known we were defenseless on that night were it not for someone leaking information."
All right, can I use acrobatics to kind of like sweep a leg around behind his and like push him forward while sweeping his legs out in front of him to push him back?
Yeah, sure.
Like, make it
Basically,
acrobatics or something.
there are rules for that.
it?
Just straight up make an acrobatics check, and he's also going to do that. And you're just trying to beat his roll, which is very likely that he'll do because he's a commoner. He gets a +1 to this roll. Yeah, rolled a 7. You do that. You, in one swift motion, like pull his weapon out of his hand and push him back. You are not like formally trained, but you have fought before.
Mhm.
Like you are no stranger to fighting. These guys are straight up farmers.
Okay.
Like he has no idea how to deal with what you just did to him.
All right, and then I would like to disarm this one too.
Well, that's an attack. Do you have another attack this turn?
I can action surge.
If you want to, sure.
Yeah, let's do it.
Sure. So you use your action surge, and then it's the same thing.
Woof.
Oh man, he might actually beat you. Let's find out. Nope. He rolled an 8.
All right, yeah, I
So-
would like to push him back too, if at all possible.
Yeah, so you basically pull this weapon out of this dude's hand and push him back, and then like on the backswing with that same weapon, like ducking, you know, we see the like mohawk part of your helmet like kind of flailing around, and you just come and sideswipe this dude with the back end of the pitchfork just pulled out of this guy's hand and like throw him back as well. And he lands on his butt.
I'm gonna stand. I'm gonna put my body in between the Minotaur and these two, and I'm gonna say, get yourselves to a library or a gymnasium and out of this honest field.
Sure, those two guys are effectively out of combat. In fact, combat's basically over at this point. Those two guys just like run, basically.
All right, and I'm gonna look to the Minotaur and say, well, let's get that fire out.
He just kind of stands there for a minute and looks, and like by this point, the field, like, it's not salvageable. Like, there's barely anything left. And like you say that, and you just see him like he folds his arms and just kind of looks at, and he just says, even if I were to manage to salvage the little remains, I have no home here anymore. It is obvious they do not want me here.
I
I do
can't
not wish to stay.
say that I've been a victim of such ignorance before, and it sickens me to witness it.
Looks to you and says, I would not expect such understanding from a member of the Acroan military.
Oh, not a soldier. So thankful that you are in the right in this situation.
He looks at you and says, you're not a soldier, but you wear the armor of a soldier.
I knock on it, and I'm like, my dad's.
He looks and says, well, for someone who is not a soldier, he at least taught you a thing or two.
I inherited a thing or two. And then I push the pitchfork into his hand, and I say, I suppose these are yours now, and if you'd have me, I would stand guard while you packed some things.
He just looks over, and with like almost comedic timing, like the inside beam and part of a nearby house just like collapses, sending like fire up in the air. And he just looks back at you and says, I am packed and ready to go.
Well then, shall we walk towards Akros together?
I suppose it is better than remaining here.
I give him the cloak that I wore on the journey since I have a cape on my armor now.
Mm-hmm.
And say, I don't know how much, and I like indicate the hair on him that breaks the wind, but
he nods and says, the gesture is appreciated, and he will put it on, and it is like comedically small, but like he wears it like over one arm, basically. Like he wears it like you would like a side cape.
right, like on the side that the wind is coming from.
Exactly.
Okay, and on the way, I would just keep an eye behind us to make sure that nobody is trying to like chase him.
No one
or
will
anything
chase
like
you
that.
guys, but like you definitely get some dirty looks, and you see like some people like standing on the edge of town, like watching to make sure you guys are leaving, but no one gives chase or anything. As you're like, you're not gonna get any shit from these people.
What's your name, sir?
Says, I guess formalities are often set to the side in the middle of the fights. I am Oswin,
I am
formerly.
Elendra.
It's good to meet you, Elendra. I am Oswin, formerly of Scophos, and formerly of Ulm, I suppose. Currently of nowhere.
Well, hang tight for 1 minute, please. And I'll be right back with you. Mr. What did you say his name was?
This is Oswin.
Oswin?
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Oswin. And I'm gonna go and stand on like a fence or something so that I'm a little bit elevated. I'm gonna get loud and I'm gonna get haughty and I'm gonna be like, all of you farmers should be ashamed of yourselves. All of you.
One of them pipes up and just says, "We don't need no spot bogus Sully in our town with his violence and such."
Formerly of Scophus. Formerly. And I just hop down and start walking away. And as I walk back up to Oswin, I'm going to say, they'll see when I win the Rowan games.
When you say that, he looks a little bit taken aback. He says, "Contender, are you?"
Not yet. First I have to kill the Cyclops. It's going to be a whole thing.
Now, correct me if I am wrong. I'm willing to guess that you've never seen a Cyclops.
Heard lots of stories. Seen drawings.
I promise you, the stories and the drawings do not do them justice. To see a Cyclops, a 40-foot tall giant who wants nothing but to consume you, grind up your bones within its sharpened teeth, is to know true fear on the battlefield. They are of a different, not just species, of a different age. It is
You ever killed a Cyclops?
a Cyclops? No. Not personally, anyways. I've fought many battles. I've been fortunate enough to not face a Cyclops. Less fortunate in some circumstances, he says, kind of jokingly, and like gestures to one of the big scars that's like kind of wrapped around his head. He says, but any battle you walk away with, merely a scar, and you still have both your eyes and all the important bits, I suppose, is a good battle.
There is a victory in learning.
Indeed.
Maybe we can find you a Cyclops and you can enter the games as well.
I do not think I am young enough, nor do I think the Acroans would be so ready to see a Minotaur fighting on the sands as a contender. Perhaps if I am fortunate, they will merely throw me in a cage and set me loose as a beast to fight in the pits. And you could have the honor of slaying me.
You would be a hefty purse.
As many have tried. But I tire of such things. That is what brought me to the village of Ohm in the first place.
Are you so tired of it that you would hate a travel companion? Say, this tall, about this length of hair.
He kind of chuckles and says, I suppose it depends on where you are going.
To find a Cyclops. And to train the whole way and to kill it. I have 4 months.
He says, okay. He will turn to you. What's your armor class right now?
17.
He turns to you and just kind of out of nowhere swings at you with like a big haymaker. And like you manage to block it, but he sends you back and then like puts one of his back legs, or puts his back leg behind yours and trips you. And then puts his other hoof, like stomps down right beside your head. And says, I do not think you're ready to fight a Cyclops.
Okay, but I've won in the pits before.
In the pits? In the fighting pits?
Yeah.
And he'll reach down like a big furry minotaur hand to pull you up off
Yeah,
the
I
ground.
grab him at the elbow. I do the bro grab.
The bro grab.
Yeah.
Totally. He'll pull you up to your feet and says, "You can fight, but pit fighting is much different than fighting on the battlefield, let alone a cyclops."
I spit in the dirt and I say, "There's no honor in it. They put me against a displacer beast last night. I freed it. I don't think I'm welcome in the pits again for a while."
He kind of nods and says, "Well, if you're someone who's not welcome in the pits, then you can't be all bad."
She blushes a little at that because she's always detested the pits. Like she didn't like spending time there. And I don't imagine she's been there a lot of times, and I imagine she's had a few lucky wins just by virtue of being very quick and being paired against the right opponents, right?
Definitely.
And she says, "But a family has to eat."
Says that is true. That is true. Well, speaking of eating, we also have to eat. So I said, the sun is going down. We should find somewhere to camp.
Any of these farmers, pig farmers?
None that I know of, but I have some leftovers from lunch that we can share.
I'm good at finding berries.
So the two of you got to go off to the side, find like a small wooded area around here, kind of close to one of the mountains. You can roll a survival check if you want to see how good at finding berries you actually are.
Sure.
Hell yeah. That's very good. You find lots of berries. You might even find an apple tree.
And I'll sit with Oswin and I'll tell him about Theo and my mom and how my dad died and be a 19-year-old and talk way too much about myself.
For sure. And yeah, he basically just kind of sits and he listens mostly.
I think I get the feeling that he doesn't really want to talk about his past anyway.
Yeah, he clearly, so I will just explain some facts that you know.
Okay.
Fact number one. Minotaur are primarily from Scophos, which is a city to the northwest of Akros. The Minotaur are like the ancestral enemies of Akros and the Akrosi people, primarily because the god Erois, who is the god of justice and valor on the battlefield and all that kind of thing, is the other half of the god Mogus, who is the god of the Minotaur, who is also a god of war, but he is all about slaughter and death and destruction. Yeah, like he's about using your power to subjugate and destroy those weaker than you, whereas Erois is all about using your power to lift up and protect those weaker than you, right? So, and the two of them are brothers, like within the pantheon, and they hate each other and they're constantly at war with each other, and that has very much bled into the identity of their respective peoples. So the Minotaur will frequently come down from Scophos and raid Akros and raid like the outside villages and stuff like that, and on occasion have been known to even attack, and the Akroans will go down into the Minotaur lands and do the exact same thing right back to them. The only difference basically being that the Akroans are like conquering and like moving through and trying to do so with that air of justice and like protection. They're not like burning villages to the ground or anything. They're just like pushing back against the Minotaur. Whereas the Minotaur primarily are like, they slaughter people. Like if they take over a village, it's not like we own this village now. It's like we are going to kill every man, woman, and child and salt the earth and burn this place to the ground. And not only do it, but revel in doing so. So there's definitely two warlike people, but a big disconnect in terms of their ideology. Now, obviously, with any complex society, you have outliers, right? Like there are Acroans who are total pieces of shit, and there are probably some Minotaur who aren't out just murdering people all the time.
It's pretty rad.
Yeah, like, so that's something you know. And like your whole life, you've probably been told stories about like how brutal the Minotaur are, and like those are the types of stories that like parents tell their children to like get them to behave. Like if you don't behave, a Minotaur is gonna come and like gobble you up in the night. That
I
kind
imagine
of thing.
Minotaurs probably are thrown in the pit when they're caught.
Oh, definitely.
Too.
Like that would be how they would be in some cases executed as like war criminals.
Right.
And like Minotaur are brutal. Like they're big and they are scary. And this guy, even the guy you're talking to right now, who's an older Minotaur, he's like 8.5 feet tall. He is big.
Mm-hmm.
And you feel like even you probably wouldn't be able to kill this guy if your life depended on it. Like it would be scary. So knowing that like this is probably the first time you've ever interacted with a Minotaur.
Mm-hmm.
You definitely would have seen them before. And like, yeah, in the pits, or even just like in Akros, like, because there is like a government, they send delegates and stuff sometimes, but there's like just peace talks aren't really a thing, right? So there's a very complex relationship there that pretty much boils down to these two societies hate each other. Fact number 2, the other thing that you know is that Scophos is in a state of turmoil right now. The Labyrinthian city is in a state of civil war, actually, because there is a new faction leader who worships the god Keranos, who is the god of storms and knowledge, who is very in line with a lot of what the Minotaur believe, but is not about like slaughter and destruction. He's more about like, you know, there's some goodness there. And those two factions have been fighting with each other because the current faction that is in power is that of Mogus, and there's another faction trying to usurp them.
Okay.
So that's like a big thing right now. So there hasn't really been much Minotaur interaction with Akros because they've been fighting each other for the past like 6 months.
Can I ask quickly what the name of the current emperor of everyone is, like the High Emperor?
Yeah, the current emperor was just crowned like 6 or 7 months ago, which is Athalir Morningsun.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So this is like a pretty recent thing, but it's been like over half a year that this civil war has been happening.
Okay. And
which kind of started the way all civil wars do. It started with a new leader interposing themselves, talks breaking down, and then the side that was in power is like, no, we don't want change. And the side that wants change ultimately coming to blows with each other because that's the only way to really resolve a conflict like that at that scale.
Okay, I think Alendra would very, very much respect the uprising, like the rebels. And I think that that's why she would give this Minotaur the benefit of the doubt despite her prejudices that are like sewn into her from a young age. This probably has had her thinking like, what if they're not all bad?
For sure. Absolutely. Because like this whole situation has proven that there is a very big section of the Minotaur who do not align themselves with Mogus,
right?
Who likely haven't been vocal because A, being vocal about that could get you killed in a society like that, and B, there was no one to like rally behind. But they have a champion of Keranos now who they are rallying behind.
Have I heard stories of this champion?
Probably not. You may, like, you know that he was up for he was participating in the rite of secession to attempt to become the next emperor.
Okay.
He failed in that, but in returning to Scophos brought back like a new ideology with him, which has radicalized a lot of people there who were unhappy with Mogus as a ruler.
Okay.
So yeah. And as you're kind of sitting around the fire having this conversation, like you're basically just giving him your whole backstory, and he's like, like just listening.
I mean, she won't be an asshole about it, but she'll
sure.
like listen whenever he has something to say, but she's not gonna press about his
I
past.
mean, you guys are talking to each other around a campfire in an age where cell phones don't exist, so you're gonna talk until you're tired and then go to sleep.
Yep.
You got nothing to do but talk to each other. So yeah, you talk a lot about who you are, where you're from, all that stuff. When you bring up your father dying in battle, you can just kind of see him like staring into the flames, and he's just musing like too many sons and fathers and mothers and sisters have died, and the wars between our peoples, senseless violence. That's what brought me out of Scophos, out of the labyrinth, to the village of Ohm. My wife passed some time ago. My son, unfortunately, months ago, was destroyed by the followers of Mogus. I had no reason to stay. I thought things might be different here, but it would seem there is still much healing that needs to be done between our people before one such as myself is ready to find peace.
I'm gonna grab his giant hand. I'm gonna press it close to my heart, and I'm just gonna sit there in silence.
Yeah, and he'll just kind of sit there, like, letting you hold his hand, basically.
He's, like, chewing on a mouthful of grass like a cow.
Yeah, he's chewing his cud. But, yeah. And after, like, kind of a long silence, he'll just chime in and say, you know, if you are seeking to slay a Cyclops, you will need a weapon for the job.
And I just, like, look back and forth between his eyes and my bastard sword.
Yeah. And he looks and says, it's a fine sword. Truly.
It's so light. Hold it.
He will. And when he reaches down to pick it up,
he does that thing where he, like, lifts it up way too fast.
No, actually. He picks it up and he holds it and kind of swings it around. He says, it's certainly balanced quite well. But this is a great sword nonetheless.
It's easy to wield for me.
You get the impression when he's holding it, it almost feels heavier in his hands than it does in yours.
Here, let me show you. And I take it and I do some forms or whatever.
Yeah.
Some
you swing it around.
Because I have no training.
He looks at you with kind of like a confused look on his face and is just like, seems the sword carries itself a little bit lighter in your hands than it does in mine.
I think it's because I'm fast.
It could be. And as you're doing some of these forms, he will like stop you and like move you and reposition you a little bit, and like
my posture,
yeah, gives you a little bit of
stuff.
advice. Like you'll swing, and he'll just be like, "That's a great way to swing that sword if you want to get stabbed in the neck." And he'll just be like, "Position your head like this, move your body like this, make yourself as small as you can. Why run at me? Turn sideways." It's like, you are fast. That's what your advantage is. I am not. I rely on my strength. You rely on your speed. You are quick, but you fight like an idiot.
Good moves for me to poop on.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, he gives you a little bit of advice. And he just says, no, but what I meant earlier, that weapon is surely more than efficient for cutting down enemies, bandits, what have you. Fighting something such as a Cyclops is not like fighting just a giant bandit or giant version of any other enemy you've ever encountered. There's a supernatural element at play. They come from the Nyx, That is where they are born. He says, kind of like gesturing up to the Nyx star-studded sky above. He says, their skin is inches thick, and no regular blade can cut through them, at least not the way that you would cut through anything else. He says, you need proper weapon.
Well, then I suppose we'll find jobs that will train me to lift this weapon. Until we find this weapon and I can wield it.
He kind of chuckles and says, there's only one place to find a weapon which can fell a Cyclops. You need to beseech a craftsman of the Temple of Perforos. Only they can forge weapons befitting of someone who wishes to attempt to slay a Cyclops.
I don't suppose you know any of them.
This is not personally, but there are tales of craftsmen working in the temples of Perforos at Mount Velus, which is a place you are aware of, which is to the north of here. It's a volcano.
Mm-hmm.
And Perforos, who's the god of the forge, is said to have one of his largest forges in the center of that volcano. And this is something you would be kind of aware of. Actually, roll a history check for me to see how much you know about this.
Sure. Not a lot.
Not a lot. So the baseline information that just kind of like everyone knows is that frequently champions of Erois, or any other deity, but like you'd be most familiar with champions of Erois, will often beseech a weapon from the forges of Perforos. Basically, if you are able to prove yourself to Perforos that you are worthy of wielding one of his weapons,
He'll make you one.
Usually not him personally, but one of his like clerics will make you one.
Okay.
Clerics of Perforos basically just being like blacksmiths.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, a forge master of Perforos. They readily make weapons for champions all the time. They're happy to do it. It's like an art form to them, but they also don't just hand them out to anyone. Which is kind of basically the deal is these forge masters, especially the ones in Mount Velus, will happily make weapons for champions who go to them, because getting there is such a challenge that if you weren't worthy of wielding a weapon forged by a cleric of Perforos, you wouldn't be able to get there.
Right.
It is literally a temple inside a volcano, which attracts like some of the worst kinds of monsters that exist in Theros because of all of the gold and the precious metals and the tasty people that come by and the heat and the magma. Most notorious and most dangerous, which is very unlikely that you would encounter this even if you were to go there, but there are said to be like red dragons even that covet those lands because of the heat and also because of all the precious metals. Also, the temples of Perforos are all, even not the primary one in Mount Velus, are all built into volcanoes, because the whole idea is when it's time for the volcano to erupt, it does so, it destroys the entire temple and everything in it, which is an opportunity to rebuild better. Okay. So often those old abandoned halls end up infested with dangerous creatures.
Excellent.
So getting there is usually quite a challenge, but by doing so, that in and of itself is proof that like clearly you want it bad enough.
Well, Oswin, I need to bring you home to meet my mother. I told her I would be back in a few days, and I don't break promises to my mother.
He says, it's very wise. Most mothers do not take broken promises too kindly. But
she's beautiful and fearsome, like Thassa.
Oof.
Yeah.
He says, it is very unlikely they will let me into the city.
You're with me. I'm a citizen. They can't turn you away.
That is true. Well, they can.
Plus,
But
we're gonna have to do a shift at Savos's bread stall. It's a whole thing.
he's gonna nod and says, "Oh boy, what have I gotten myself into here?
An adventure, Oswin.
Too old for adventures. I've had adventures. They suck."
Yeah, but this time you get to have it vicariously through me.
Well,
All the fun parts, none of the hard work.
suppose I do owe you for helping me.
I wouldn't call it that.
And I suppose someone needs to teach you how to stay on your feet when
I
someone's
would
trying to
call
knock
it
you off
that.
of them. This is very well. I will teach you what I know, and we'll see just how far you manage to get on your own.
Excellent. And on our way back to meet my mom, we can look for eggs and stuff to bring to her because she's very thin.
Well, why is she so thin?
Because we are very poor. Because my father disappeared in battle.
Right. Well, on that note, let us rest up. Leave as the sun rises.
Excellent.
Cool.
I'm pleased to have met you, Aslan.
He just nods and says, "Well, you don't know me yet, but
That's
it's
why
nice
I
to
said
meet you
met.
also." And he goes to sleep.
Same.
Then you go to sleep. Everyone's going to sleep. Cool. So you go to sleep. And as you sleep, you have a dream. I mean, you've obviously had dreams before, but this one is extremely visceral and extremely real. So much so that like you wake from this dream remembering like everything about it in crystal clear reality as if it had just happened to you. And while you were in this dream, you are on the front of a battlefield actually, with a bunch of other Acroan soldiers kind of all around you. And you're wearing your father's armor. And just a little bit ahead of you, you see a large figure wearing like very ornate armor, that of like a general, like a suit of armor that you only really see a couple people in Acroan society would be wearing.
Like the one I saw the other night that disappeared.
Very much like that.
Very much like that or exactly like that?
I would say very much like that.
Okay.
And you see this figure standing there, and you don't like, you can't really see their face or anything, but you intuitively know that this person is your dad, and like you've seen your dad before. So maybe this person isn't standing as like huge as that figure you saw the other night, but you do know that this person is your dad. And you like reach out to put a hand on the shoulder of this person, and they turn to look at you, and before their face is like revealed to you, because your brain cannot like process information it doesn't really have, you start to realize that like you don't even remember exactly what your dad's face looks like it's been such a long time. And as he turns to look at you, you just wake up with this kind of sense of forlorn, not necessarily sadness, but just a sense of like yearning that you get from having a dream like that.
Bit colder dawn than normal.
Yeah, but like I said, it's extremely visceral, and you can recall everything in immense detail, and like what that means, who knows.
I suddenly miss my mother and Theo very bad.
For sure. And fortunately, you're only about a day away, so you wake up And as you wake up, just kind of like jolted awake from this dream, you see Oswin already like getting his shit together, like putting his pack on, that kind of thing. He's got like a branch that he found to use as a walking stick. Yeah. He's getting ready to head back.
Oswin, perhaps I could do some training by carrying some of that stuff for you.
He looks at you and says, before we do any kind of stress training, we need to get a little weight on you first, I think. Plus, I might be old, but I can still carry my own shit. He just throws his thing over his shoulder and starts walking.
I didn't mean to imply.
He says, oh, it was implied. And that is where we are going to end for today, for session 1 of Theros.
Can I just say briefly how much I fucking love Theros?
It's a great setting.
It's such a fucking magical setting.
It's a super magical setting.
Crazy about it is that it's like mostly kind of accurate, right? Like it's the closest to real life that a D&D setting has ever been. It's just ancient history. You know,
for sure.
mean?
It's like ancient history,
but fantastical beasts and stuff.
Yeah,
but like,
it's ancient history, but the fantastical elements are real.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like the Forgotten Realms, which has its own charms, but it's like everything is very clearly like in a fantasy realm.
Yeah.
It's like everything is... That's what I like about Theros a lot. Everything is very grounded in reality, but it has these elements of like fantastic nature and stuff like that, you know? Mm-hmm. So I agree with you. Theros is fucking awesome. I'm excited to be playing in this world again.
Well, thank you so much for this Dungeons and Date night, babe.
Yeah. Thank you for playing.
I'm so excited about it, and I really love Alendra already, and I'm psyched that I picked up my first NPC baby already.
Yeah, dude. NPC baby number 1 in the bank.
Did you mean for that to happen?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
I mean, I was like, there's a chance that you're just going to fucking kill this dude, but I assumed that you wouldn't because I know you.
Oh, also, I would have patched up his wounds at the fire the night before.
He barely had any wounds, honestly. The damage he took was
13 damage.
Yeah, that's
more than a commoner's health.
Yeah, he has a lot more than a commoner's health.
Right, but still, that's a hefty that's some stitches. I put some stitches on him.
For sure.
Okay, so really quick.
Piece of the universe, don't talk. Don't spread the secrets. Everything was planned. I'm a fucking genius.
Because of the nature of D&D content, we don't really say hi personally to chat. We don't really interact much. I didn't even mean for alerts to happen. They did, a couple of them. But I would like to take a moment to read out all of the support that we've gotten today.
Yeah, please do. Because, like you said, we can't really interrupt role-playing games for that. But, like, there's been a bunch of support. And there's a bunch of people hanging out right now. So please go off. Go off, young king.
David Benali, thank you so much for following on Facebook. Vicafori, thank you for the follow. Dragon Rana, thank you for the host. BDD, thank you for resubscribing at 16 months. Tupacula, thank you for the raid and for the resub at 50 months. Catastrophic Candy, thank you so much for the follow. You are a fucking snack. Dixon Cider, hitting us with those super chats. Awesome role-playing stream, and finally caught a live stream. Super busy at work. I hope that clears up for you soon. Or if it's nice to be busy at work, then I hope it keeps up. Tiger Lily Gamer, thank you so much for the follow. Grillin' Man, thank you for the $10 donation. That's so rad. He says, very cool, a fun listen so far, folks. We're so happy to do this for you. We love doing it, whether you're listening or not, but making you a part of it is very special to us. So thank you so much for the support. And A Piece of the Universe, thank you so much for the host with 1 viewer. I appreciate it so much.
Great. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for hanging out today. A lot of new faces in chat I saw today, which is always welcome. If your thing is D&D content, we are going to be doing this. This is session 1 of a brand new Theros campaign, which I'm super jazzed about. We'll be doing this every Thursday night for the foreseeable future until this is done. And then who knows? maybe we'll start another campaign after that if scheduling allows. The point is, for the foreseeable future, you can catch Theros, The Ties That Bind on Dungeons and Date Nights Thursday evenings, starting today. If you want other role-playing tabletop content, we stream D&D every Tuesday night as well on this channel.
But it's not your grandma's D&D.
Yeah.
Folks.
So the Tuesday night D&D streams are a little wild. We refer to them affectionately as reskin campaigns, where basically we take D&D 5th edition, but we adapt the rules and reflavor everything to something kind of weird. So like we did a campaign that was basically a knockoff of Reboot, where everyone was computer programs working as antivirus software. We did a campaign called Tall Tales, where it was like Redwall. Everyone was mice and rats and moths and woodland creatures. The current campaign that's running on Tuesday nights is called Toys R Us, which is basically a Toy Story D&D campaign. So the party is playing a bunch of toys, and they're off searching for the fabled land of kindergarten. So that's happening on Tuesdays. Thursday nights we're doing this, and then other days during the week we're just here playing video games and stuff. So if you want to hang out and for stuff that's not tabletop content, we'll be here all week. If you are only after that tabletop content, you can find us here on Tuesday nights and Thursday nights. If you didn't catch all of the VOD today, it will be uploaded
on the Dungeon Dad
on the YouTube channel. Yeah, so the Dungeon Dad YouTube channel, if you're watching this on Twitch right now, in the description below, you'll see the little link to Dungeon Dad on YouTube. That is my personal YouTube channel, where I upload a lot of lore videos, and Monster of the Week is kind of my thing, where I just talk about old D&D monsters and convert them to 5th edition and that kind of stuff. But that's also where you can catch the VODs for our tabletop games.
It's genuinely my favorite, what's the word? Like, consumable content on D&D. What's the word? It's like not bite-sized, but you know what I mean? Like, what's the word?
I don't know what the word is.
I don't know. It's
is
my
it
favorite not bite-sized fucking D&D content. I'm not just saying that because the dick good.
Well, that's good to know, folks. So
it's really good. It's really good. I've liked Dungeon Dad's videos since before he was my boyfriend.
That's very nice of you. So that's the real takeaway here, folks, is if you want to find a romantic partner, just start a D&D channel about Dungeons and Dragons, and eventually it will happen for you. But yeah, so for those of you who are going to hang out during the week and stuff, we'll see you tomorrow. For those of you who are here for specifically D&D stuff, I'll catch you on the YouTube channel or next week. So until then, thank you so much for watching. We love you. We appreciate you. And we'll see you next time.
We're going to raid Geef. Everybody hang tight for a second.
Hell
I love
yeah.
you. Goodbye.
Lit.